The courtroom was packed with tension, the kind of atmosphere where even a cough seemed like thunder against the wooden walls. Everyone had come to see the trial of a man who should never have been sitting in that defendant's chair. He wasn't a thief, nor a murderer, nor even a man accused of corruption himself. He was a tomb guard, one of the most disciplined, respected soldiers in the nation, chosen to stand watch over the tomb of the unknown soldier, a post where silence, honor, and integrity meant everything. His name was Sergeant Daniel Carter, and his presence alone carried a weight of dignity. He had spent years guarding a place sacred to the memory of fallen heroes, standing through blistering heat and freezing storms, never flinching, never failing. Yet here he was, accused of something he hadn't done, staring at a judge whose reputation was as black as the robes he wore. People whispered about the judge, Judge Malcolm Hensley, a man notorious for twisting justice to serve his own greed. Rumors had followed him for years, bribes hidden in offshore accounts, connections with crime bosses, and verdicts always bending in favor of whoever paid him the most. Everyone in that courtroom knew something was wrong, but nobody dared to say it aloud, not yet. Sergeant Carter stood tall, his uniform crisp, his face calm, though deep down, fury burned in his chest. His crime, at least the one written on paper, was obstruction of authority. The story, however, was very different. Weeks earlier, Carter had witnessed something the judge never wanted exposed. Late at night, as Carter was off duty, he had seen Judge Hensley leaving a private meeting with known criminals. Bags of cash had exchanged hands, and Carter's sharp military instinct had made him snap a photo from the shadows. He didn't intend to get involved, but when one of the criminals spotted him, Carter suddenly found himself targeted. Within days, false charges appeared, claims that he had struck an officer, that he had defied a court order, that he was dangerous despite his flawless service record. The trial was a setup from the beginning. The prosecutor echoed words written by the judge's allies, the jury looked uneasy but powerless, and the defense attorney seemed more like a spectator than a fighter. Yet, as Carter stood there, staring at the man who sought to ruin him, he didn't cower. His eyes locked on Judge Hensley with the unshakable resolve of a soldier who had stared down worse storms. The moment of sentencing arrived. Judge Hensley's gavel struck the desk, the sound like a hammer driving nails into the coffin of truth. He leaned forward, his lips curling into something between a sneer and a smile. "Sergeant Daniel Carter," he declared, his voice dripping with mockery, "you are hereby sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Your service may have impressed the ignorant public, but in this courtroom, you are nothing but a disgrace." Gasps filled the air, murmurs swept the benches, and even the jurors shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew the punishment was absurd for such flimsy accusations. Carter remained unshaken, his posture like a statue carved from stone, but his silence spoke louder than any protest. He wasn't broken, and that unsettled the judge more than any words could. As the guards stepped forward to cuff him, something unexpected happened. A sharp voice rang out from the back of the room, "That's enough." All heads turned as a group of federal investigators pushed their way inside, their badges gleaming under the dim courtroom lights. The crowd froze, torn between confusion and awe. The corrupt judge's face, once smug, turned pale as he recognized the insignia on their jackets, internal affairs. The lead investigator, a tall woman with piercing eyes, marched directly to the judge's bench. "Judge Malcolm Hensley," she announced, her voice steady and commanding, "you are under arrest for obstruction of justice, bribery, and conspiracy." The words thundered across the room, and silence followed, so deep that even the sound of a pen dropping echoed. Gasps turned into murmurs, murmurs into shock. The guards who had been ready to shackle Sergeant Carter now hesitated, unsure of their orders. Carter himself simply stood still, his eyes never leaving the corrupt man who had tried to destroy him. Judge Hensley sputtered, his arrogance unraveling in real time. "This is outrageous," he barked, slamming his hand on the desk. "I am the law here." But his voice cracked, betraying the fear clawing inside him. The investigator wasted no time. She handed the paperwork to the bailiff and signaled her team. Within seconds, 2 agents stepped forward, placing the judge's own hands in cold steel cuffs, the same fate he had just tried to inflict on an innocent soldier. The courtroom erupted, half in cheers, half in stunned disbelief. Justice had turned on its master, and for the first time in years, truth stood taller than corruption. As the agents escorted Judge Hensley from the bench, the crowd surged with emotion. Some shouted words of support for Sergeant Carter, others hurled curses at the disgraced judge. Carter remained still, absorbing it all, his discipline unbroken, though inside, he felt a flood of relief. His years of silent service had never sought recognition, but now his integrity had been proven in front of the nation. The lead investigator turned to him, her expression softening. "Sergeant, you're free to go," she said quietly. "In fact, you may want to stick around. Your testimony will be crucial in bringing this man and his associates down." Carter gave a single nod, the kind of gesture that carried both respect and finality. He didn't need to gloat, didn't need to celebrate. His victory was not in the downfall of one man, but in the preservation of honor itself. The story of the tomb guard who stood unflinching even in the face of corrupt power was already spreading beyond those courtroom walls. And as Judge Hensley was dragged past the very people he once controlled, one truth became undeniable. No matter how high corruption climbs, it can never stand taller than justice when brave men refuse to bow.